In our final section, Lynn Burns will be talking about potential challenges and characteristics of spiritual leadership. Lynn has served a number of congregations across the Episcopal Church in Colorado and brings an international flavor to her experience as well. She currently serves as an interim rector, doing the critical work of helping congregations in clergy transition work through all the many questions they face in that liminal space and time. Lynn, you wanted to tackle this issue of vestries and bishops' committees and identifying areas of potential challenge. How can they respond to these kinds of challenges faithfully?
I would highly recommend that the first thing that vestry members do is purchase a copy of the new Vestry resource guide. It's very good. And what it does, one of the comments early on talks about vestries as doing holy work, seeking to build vital faith communities with the capacity to empower people to live out the gospel as Christian disciples. It also cites a quote by a retired bishop who said, "Vestry should be one of the most exciting ministries in the church, joyful, in fact. Healthy, effective vestries make healthy, effective parishes." When serving on a vestry ceases to be joyful, when vestries become less than effective, we need to ask the question, what's going on? Now, symptoms of dysfunction are pretty obvious. It might come in the form of one member dominating a meeting that shuts down discussion, the unwillingness to participate, avoidance of conflict, the failure to address the proverbial elephant in the room, which might be because they don't want to deal with differences of opinion for fear of rocking the boat. Another sign of dysfunction is parking lot conversations. We've all experienced that, where what was not said during the meeting is aired on the sidelines, sowing distrust and potentially creating conflict and factions. Vestry members need to be very aware of triangulation, which occurs when a third party is brought into a conflictual situation that can only be resolved by direct and honest interaction between the other parties. Finally, avoidance of accountability on the part of the vestry member might well be an indication of an underlying problem that should be addressed. And if any of these above issues come up, the question needs to be asked, what is going on?
So how else might one identify something called vestry failure?
When a vestry becomes issue-driven, and by that I mean they might focus specifically on money issues. Poor communication is another indication of potential dysfunction, loss of trust, especially when it comes to financial matters, and engaging in gossip and not dealing with rumors. If you as a vestry member experience any of these issues, it's really important and totally in your long-term interest to figure out what's going on. How can these issues be addressed? Start off by looking at the larger picture. Has the vestry articulated where it's going? Does it have a sense of vision? It's not unusual to discover that as a vestry, a we've always done it this way mentality might be getting in the way of being open to the Holy Spirit and when God is calling a particular congregation to take a certain direction. Personal agendas that drive the vestry's sense of purpose can also get in the way. The question, are we relying on ourselves rather than God, is something I think that all Christians need to continue asking ourselves. Other important questions include whether or not our ability to maintain tradition, or alternatively our can-do independent attitudes, so prevalent in our independent culture, are preventing us from discerning God's guidance. These are not easy questions. However, the more you learn about yourselves through your honest responses to these questions, the healthier and more vibrant you will become as a vestry. A healthy, vibrant vestry is critical to the health and vitality of the entire congregation. Do this work. It's really worth it. It will help everybody in your community learn to respond to God's unique calling of your church. To sum up the above, I would say that as a vestry, it takes wisdom, courage, and humility to examine whether your focus has been on pleasing people rather than God, and failing to recognize Jesus as the head of the body. It is the job of every vestry member to lead faithful lives, exercise servant leadership, and to share excitement, joy, and optimism with the parish. As so many in our church today, Christians in the 21st century, as we know, the patterns are changing significantly. I think we all need to be very intentional about where we have been and where we're going. I'm sure we are all beginning to become increasingly aware of the fact that there are so many Americans now who are switching religions or claiming no religious affiliation at all. It's becoming abundantly clear that the Judeo-Christian tradition is no longer the dominant cultural force in this country, and that membership in mainline churches is both declining and it's aging. For all of those reasons, it's incumbent upon vestries to look at other models, to think outside the box, and above all, to learn to say yes to God in new and deeper ways.
So what does that mean for our leaders? What can we do?
What I think we can do is probably one of the most difficult things to do, which is overcome our all too human resistance to change. It's much easier said than done. But I really believe that we need to start being bold. We need to try new things, open ourselves up to what the Spirit is saying through the people in our communities and in our churches. We need to learn how to listen more intentionally and share our gifts and continue to work faithfully with men and women towards a shared vision of purpose, which is towards a vision of the future that reflects God's dream for our congregations. Vestries of vibrant and growing churches are keenly aware of the need to be mission-shaped and mission-focused. This is an approach that calls for new ways of doing business and of being church. Vestry members are called into spiritual leadership to engage more deeply with God, our neighbors, and with the world. It's an approach that involves risk, the willingness to be open and vulnerable, to change, and to be changed. The characteristics of such leadership are unmistakable: their joy, their excellence, their encouragement, optimism, excitement, support of one another, and especially of the priests who are serving you. The gifts of holy imagination will abound and energize a congregation to move forward with a growing capacity for participation in the reign of God.
Lynn, thank you. This is so inspiring. To take this deeper, please use Module 7, Potential Challenges and Commitment to Spiritual Growth, to reflect on how your vestry or bishop's committee is doing and what you can commit to do to grow spiritually, both as individuals and as a leadership body. The work to help lead congregations is an awesome opportunity and responsibility. The goal is to keep the focus on what good thing God is about and finding ways to enter in. Yes, there are rules and expectations, and those take time and attention. What we hope you take from this offering is that it is about so much more. Your willingness to step into leadership for your congregation can be the next step in your ongoing and deepening relationship to God. For while it may be easier to find God out alone in the desert, it is in faithful community that we are transformed. By looking into the face of the other, where we seek and find the face of Christ, even when we disagree, we begin to understand what the kingdom is all about. Thank you. Thank you so very much for your willingness to say yes, for going above and beyond, for all the things you do that most of the members don't know about, for early mornings and late nights, for your prayer and your faithfulness. Thank you.
vestry persons, bishop committee members, need to be faithful in their own Christian living and life. Mm-hmm. Can we start Yeah.
We're killing this.
Okay, compose yourself.
Sorry, the look on your face before you did it gave me that. Okay. Gotta get my redness down.